40% annual rate of return in the real estate sector. Why would you set up a factory? Why would you set up a factory? So that's the structure of the economy, that these big flows that were coming into the country and our inability to manage them well at the federal level. So this structure has an important consequence. Whenever we have growth, and this is why we keep going back to the fund over and over and over again, there are all the neoliberal economics problems that Ashfaq Hassan talked about. They're all there, but let's first focus on what we do to get there. The moment there is growth in Pakistan, it happens after every completion of the IMF program. We stabilize and we get some growth going. When we get that growth, because we are highly consumption oriented, that translates into huge increase in consumption, which means huge increase in imports. And since we don't export much, our factories are stagnant. The result is that we have a balance of payments crisis, and we are back to the IMF. It's the structure of the economy that needs to be changed. Okay. So this is what I want you to keep at the back of your mind when you discuss or when you think about what Kaiser just said and what I'm about to say, which is that exports to Pakistan till the 90s was the highest in South Asia. But now we are the lowest in South Asia. Exports have stagnated. Our export performance our international competitiveness as measured in exports has deteriorated. This has to be fixed. This has to be the center of all strategies, whether they are geopolitical strategies or they are national security strategies or they are economic strategies. It's this fundamental fact, which is the result of the structure of the economy that has been created, that needs to be changed. Now, of course, we need to export to the entire world. But what I'm going to argue is that we have enormous opportunities locally. If we look at a geopolitical location, our geostrategic location, we can easily be the bazaar of this entire region because of our history and because of our location, and if we get the CPEC right and we get Gwadar going well. Here's why. Go back, old history. There is a reason why Upper Sindh, Multan, Lahore, and Peshawar were such vibrant cultural centers for centuries, long before colonialism. That's because they were at the center of trade routes. Trade routes that were connecting Eastern markets with Western markets. This is our history. Our language reflects that. Our food reflects that. Our clothes reflect that. This is what made us. Then came the British colonial times, and they cut off the northern routes because Afghanistan was to be the buffer state between Russia and British India. So they cut off the northern routes. They really had no interest in maintaining the routes with Iran. The routes, you need to spend money on them. You need to keep them up. There was no interest in the colonial times to maintain those routes. China was buried in its own troubles for a couple of hundred years. So our Multan, Peshawar, Lahore, they become much better connected with the Eastern markets. And so that's where we got the stimulus. That's where, growth happens when a lot of people get into contracts, when a lot of people find business opportunities, when they deal with each other. So our growth became east-centered rather than west and north. But that was okay. And then 1947 happened, and our bad blood with India started, so we cut off the eastern routes. So now, for the first time, we have an opportunity actually to have an integrated Indus Valley market, for the first time. And I must say, people who made policies in the 50s and 60s did a terrific job. We have an excellent Indus Basin market. Goods move from Karachi to, am I getting out of time? Okay. Let me rush through. So we created a fantastic market, except that we were behaving like an island economy. Everything went to the port of Karachi and out. That's how we dealt with the world. And it didn't really matter, because China was slumbering, Central Asia was under Soviet occupation, Iran was going nowhere, India was in what they used to call the Hindu growth rate of 3%. So it didn't matter. We could get advantage from this, and we got 6% annual growth rate for 3 or 4 decades. So this is great. It was a good decision taken. But the time has come to, given what our economic plight is, and given how important trade is, the time has come to re-establish the old roots. If we just re-establish connectivity with China through CPEC, and Central Asia, another spur adding to CPEC, because Central Asia, since the Soviet Union, has huge resource-rich surpluses. They want to spend that money, they want to transform themselves. China is focused on Western China. Western China will be developed. And if Iran, the early signs are that Iran may well be changing. If Iran changes and sanctions are lifted from Iran, Iran will realize the potential that it has. Then we've got vibrant markets to connect to. But mark my words, all of them will want to connect with India. All of them will want to connect with India because India's deeper industrialization. We can either say, no, thank you, we won't let you deal with it, you develop your own ports, you deal with India. Or we can say, great, we will be the facilitators, come through us. What I'm going to give you a very quick concluding remark is that we are a population of 220 million people. We've got urban centers, growth centers, up north in Peshawar. The reason why we are having problems in Quetta and Balochistan is because it never got integrated with the Indus market. So we've got Quetta, we've got Peshawar up there, we've got Lahore, and then we've got Karachi. All of these cities will become port cities if we become facilitators of trade between East and West and Northwest. They will all become port cities with all the dynamics of port cities. And since we are a country of 220 million people, if we invest in our people wisely, if we give them the skills, for transport cost reasons, these centers will become industrial centers. This is how it has happened all over the world. First you become a port city, you have trade facilitation, then you become manufacturing centers because you've got the labor force. So that's the promise. Now, what do we do about India in all this? Because, you know, if they're going to take a revenge of what the Central Asians did to them for all those 800 years, what do? I believe it is in our national interest to look beyond Hindutva. I believe that there are enough sensible Indians who question what Modi is doing to their country. And I think we should find alliances with them. I think we should, in our national strategy, build this in, that we will facilitate trade because we will benefit from it. And I think it is inevitable that the pressure will come to India. But there are other things that Modi has nothing to do with. We had excellent fresh produce trade with India. You know, ours is a long, narrow country. Our seasons are short. Our population is growing. There's demand for fresh produce. Fresh produce would come from India, and that would temper prices of basic essentials.